University of Houston, 9 o'clock. Early voting is being extended in the 18th District Special to replace late Congressman and former Houston Mayor Sylvester Turner. I'm Craig Cohen. Houston Matters, we talk with one of the plaintiffs who brought a lawsuit.
With Craig Cohen is a production of Houston Public Media with support from Baylor College of Medicine.
Plus Day Trust Greater Houston and an area on International Holocaust Remembrance Day. Joining us here on News 88.7, check out our live video feed on YouTube channel. We'll start with a news update from NPR and News 88.7. Stay with us.
Live from NPR News, I'm Corva went to Minneapolis instead. This comes as fear grows over the Trump administration's immigration crackdown in Minnesota. A federal judge in Minnesota has ordered acting Immigration and Customs Enforcement Director Tom Lyons to show up personally in a Minneapolis courtroom on Friday. From Minnesota Public Radio, Matt Sepik has more.
Judge Patrick Schultz says ICE is not complying with his January 14th order to provide a bond hearing for a man in immigration detention or release him. Schultz's order says ICE has failed to comply with dozens of similar orders. He says ICE Chief Tom Lyons must appear in court Friday to answer for why he shouldn't be held in contempt. Schultz, a George W. Bush appointee, says, quote, the court's patience is at an end.
Matt Sepik prepared that report. The federal government faces a partial shutdown after Friday unless Congress passes a spending bill. Senate Democrats want to strip out funding for Homeland Security. NPR's Claudia Grisales reports this follows the killing of Minneapolis protester Alex Preddy.
The House passed a spending package on a bipartisan basis last week. It left for recess with the expectation the Senate would do the same. The bill needs to pass by Friday to avoid a shutdown of portions of the government. However, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer said DHS funding is woefully inadequate and fails to keep ICE agents in check in the wake of Preddy's death. Democrats are demanding Republicans pull the DHS funding from the overall $1.3 trillion bill, which also funds the Departments of Defense, Labor, and Health and Human Services, among others. Republicans are pushing back, but many are also calling for a full investigation into Preddy's killing. Claudia Grisales, NPR News.
Stocks opened mixed this morning after some solid corporate earnings reports from Boeing and General Motors. NPR's Scott Horsley reports the Dow Jones Industrial Average dropped 400 points in early trading.
Boeing sales took off in the fourth quarter as the jet maker recorded its best three-month period in 7 years. Boeing delivered almost 3 times as many commercial jets as it did in the same period a year ago. Boeing also turned a profit during the quarter, thanks in part to a one-time gain. General Motors also reported better than expected profits, although quarterly sales fell just short of forecasts. GM announced a plan to buy back some $6 billion of its own stock. India and Europe have agreed to lower trade barriers as part of a massive trade deal covering 2 billion people and a quarter of global GDP. News of the deal comes after nearly 2 decades of negotiation. Scott Horsley, NPR News, Washington.
The Dow is now down 420 points. This is NPR.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Sony Pictures Classics, presenting A Private Life, starring Jodie Foster as a psychiatrist who investigates the sudden death of one of her patients as a possible murder.
Good morning,
now
everyone.
playing select cities. Opens wide Friday.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Matt Harrow. You shouldn't have many issues on the roads right now. Most, if not all, of the icy spots from the winter storm over the weekend have melted away. We are now above freezing here on the UH campus, 33 degrees according to the thermometer, and that extreme cold warning is set to expire at 12 o'clock this afternoon before we warm up to around 50 today. There do appear to maybe be some casualties relating to the cold, though. At least 3 people were found dead in separate locations in downtown Houston on Monday. A man and woman were found about 50 feet apart, according to KHOU, under Highway 59 on Congress Street. Police say there were no signs of foul play, although it is unclear if the cold contributed to the deaths until an autopsy is conducted. Another body was found in Tranquility Park near Houston City Hall. Now, the city of Houston faces a multi-million-dollar expense due to the winter storms. It comes as the municipal government grapples with a ballooning budget deficit. News 88.7's Dominic Anthony Walsh reports.
Last year, the city spent $6.5 million during the 6-day freeze and snowstorm in January, largely on 10 warming centers. The city currently has 12 warming centers open for the 3-night freeze.
It's very expensive, very expensive.
Mayor John Whitmire's administration faces a more than $120 million budget deficit this year.
We will spend several $1 million on this current storm, and the city is broke.
The city's rainy day fund for disasters currently holds about $14 million. Officials have not yet said if they'll tap into it to cover the expenses for this storm.
What do you mean?
I'm Dominic Anthony Walsh, News 88.7.
And Houston's George Bush Intercontinental Airport is the first airport in the country to receive new surface movement radar systems. That's according to the Federal Aviation Administration. The Airport Surface Detection System Model X, which allows air traffic controllers to more accurately track ground movement of aircraft and vehicles to prevent runway incursions. It also has a larger visibility range than existing systems from the 1990s. Matt McCann is a surface team manager with the FAA.
So it gives us the optimal environment to be able to fully test those capabilities. It also has a high traffic volume, which also equates to more data, and the more data you have, allows for you to better fine-tune all the parameters.
The agency will continue to roll out the new system at other major airports around the country. I'm Matt Harrop, News 88.7.
This is Houston Matters. I'm Craig Cohen for joining us this morning here on News 87 and Houston Public Media's YouTube channel. Coming up this hour, a visit with a man once recognized as the best weatherman ever. Also day tripping across greater Houston, maybe not while it's still cold out, mind you. And on International Holocaust Remembrance Day, we hear one Houston area Holocaust survivor's story. First, though, a federal judge ruled Monday in favor of 2 Houston organizations calling the extension of early voting in a special runoff election in the 18th Congressional District. Wintry weather led to polling locations shutting down in a district that's been without representation in Congress for nearly a year now, since Congressman and former Houston Mayor Sylvester Turner died last March. Joel Douglas is Executive Director of Houston Justice, which filed the lawsuit along with the group Pure Justice. He joins us now. Good morning.
Thank you for having me.
Why did you conclude these weather-related closures were depriving voters the right to participate in this election?
I'm one of those folks. I live in the 18th Congressional District. I was planning on voting over the weekend. Of course, we get this ice storm that kind of wasn't an ice storm, but they closed the locations nonetheless. And so today was going to be the last day to vote before Election Day, which is Saturday, and so we had to do something about it.
Clearly, the judge agreed. So how long will early voting be extended?
All the way through Thursday. So you have 2 extra days. Tomorrow, 7 to 7, which is Wednesday, and then Thursday from 12 to 7 p.m. folks will be able to vote.
This can't be the first weather or other understandable circumstance that has disrupted early voting in Texas. Why isn't there already a set policy or statutory framework or something for automatically extending early voting when closures take place?
Well, there was a law that was passed in the last legislature that actually limits the ability of the county clerk's office or counties to make these decisions on themselves. So it actually took a lawsuit in order to do it. So before this law was passed, counties could actually make those decisions unilaterally.
Did Houston Justice or any of the plaintiffs reach out to Harris County officials about this first, or was there just no point in light of that law?
Absolutely. So great folks with the Texas Civil Rights Project, TCRP, they were our legal counsel. And so we we're back and forth with them all the way up until Saturday night. It's like 10:30 p.m. I'm emailing back and forth with the lawyers. And so their understanding of the process is actually what guided us through.
Does it seem odd to you that the onus falls on organizations like yours to file a lawsuit, to go through the process, to know how to go through the process, or find somebody who knows how to do it in order to force the hand and make this happen?
It does, because, we've seen overreach, in my opinion, from the state and from the federal government on to places like Harris County. Rights and the probability of the people who we elect to actually make those decisions is slowly being stripped away with laws like the one we mentioned earlier.
Play devil's advocate for the moment here. There is still, of course, early voting today.
Yeah.
And there is election day.
Yeah.
And this is a special election runoff.
Yeah.
Likely to be pretty low turnout overall.
Right.
In fact, we've been hearing a lot about that leading up to it. So what's the difference?
Well, a lot of folks work retail. A lot of folks work, jobs that don't allow them to be able to stop what they're doing and go and vote. Even myself, I wouldn't have been able to vote on election day because I'm supposed to be out of town. I was out of town when early voting started. And then the odd thing with this being a runoff election, it's on a Saturday. So Tuesday being the last day sort of throws people off. Usually you have Monday through Friday, the weekend, and then Monday through Friday again for election day. It was already confusing. It's already additionally confusing because there's a new congressional districts that's being cut where people are going to start voting in a couple of weeks. And so just a lot of confusion in there. And folks, really, it's not as easy for everyone to be able to get to an election, to a location to actually vote.
Yeah, to your point, the winner of this election will serve for less than a year before facing a primary under a controversial redistricting map that will pit them against longtime Congressman Al Green. Actually, that's going to come up really fast.
Yeah.
How does this lawsuit fit into the broader struggle for representation that voters in this district are experiencing?
It was almost poetic that, you had Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, who was this force who fought for the least, the last loss, as she would say, and followed by Congressman Sylvester Turner, that this election would be drawn out this long. And then as we're coming up on the finish line for an ice storm to happen, it's almost poetic, the fact that Houston Justice and Pure Justice, representatives of our memberships were able to almost wrestle a bit of our democracy back using the process. And so going forward, who knows when this person will be seated? We may have to do a lawsuit about that. Who knows what's next? But it's been too long without having representation, and looking forward to this being over.
Both candidates in the runoff, Christian Menefee and Amanda Edwards, they both publicly supported your lawsuit. How significant is it to have the candidates themselves advocating for greater voter access?
Absolutely. I mean, we didn't know whether they would support or not. We didn't know whether the county would be in support or not, because the reason I would assume that they usually have this gap is because between early vote and election day, the county clerk's office has to do a lot to turn things around in order to get ready for it. So we weren't sure if they were going to be amicable to this or not. Luckily, everyone was sort of in line. This was easier than it had to be, but we were prepared for it to go the other way. I showed up to the hearing, not sure if I was going to have to be a witness, if there was going to be,
What would you like to see the state theoretically do in the coming years, future legislative sessions, to refine this process so that maybe the onus doesn't fall on some outside organization to try and force the hand of local election officials and the state to see this through?
Absolutely. I would say it should just be a rule. Hey, if you take hours of early vote, then you have to replace them. The school districts do. They have a snow day, and they add a day at the end. And I also think when it comes to setting the dates for these elections and stuff like that, when the state constitution was built, we never would have thought that things would have been so, political, or so, the governor being able to withhold and impact national politics based on a special election.
Darrell Douglas is the executive director of Houston Justice. Darrell, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Up next, here we are, one of the few major metro areas that didn't bear the brunt of the massive winter storm. So naturally, we are hosting a convention of meteorologists this week. We'll talk with one of them as Houston Matters continues on News 88.7 and YouTube.
Hello, I'm I'm Bernie Manus, and our show, Hello Houston, is live on News 88.7 from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. weekdays. But if you can't catch us live, you can check out our YouTube channel or podcasts.
I'm Frank Billingsley. That YouTube channel is full of shows and isolated interviews, like my recent Friends of Frank, with my friend and former Houston anchor, Dominic Saxa.
And I'm Celestia Sherman. You can also listen to our Hello Houston podcast whenever you want. We have a full version of our show and a commuter cut, which is around 40 minutes.
It's Hello Houston, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. here on News 88.7.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Baylor College of Medicine. With 125 years of innovation behind it, Baylor has driven progress in health and medicine through research, education, and care that push the frontiers of modern science.
Houston Matters with Craig Cohen is made possible in part by Ellen Benninghoff and Dr. Michael Schaefer, and with gifts from listeners like you.
This is Houston Matters. I'm Craig Cohen. How's this for coincidence? On the heels of a massive winter storm that socked in much of the country over the last few days, Houston was largely spared from the worst and is, in fact, the site this week of an annual meeting of meteorologists. The American Meteorological Society is in town. Among the meeting's participants, its incoming president, Alan Seals. He joins us now. Alan, welcome to Houston Matters. Let's see, do we have Alan on the line? Looks like maybe we don't have. Oh, there he is.
Yep, I'm here. Yep,
all
surprise.
Right. Welcome. So you're visiting us from Mobile, Alabama. What kind of weather, first of all, did you leave behind there to come here?
Oh, it was interesting. The day I got in Friday. Now, I'm a meteorologist, and of course, even though I had a commitment, I knew it was better to get here well before the storm. So when I left Mobile, it was in the 60s. Even on Sunday, Mobile had severe thunderstorms. And now, of course, I'm back to a little bit of a chill. But originally, I'm a New Yorker, so it's not too cold to me.
You've provided weather updates there for years, including during Irma in 2017, right in the aftermath of Harvey. In fact, you suddenly gained a lot of notice on the old interwebs for your straightforward, panic-free assessment of that impending storm. Today, the forecasting community is filled with folks like you, but also privatized weather services, some of whom tend to gin up panic or hype up storm after storm, which complicates things for those just trying to get accurate information out there without the hype. Is this something that gets discussed by the AMS or within weather forecasting circles?
Oh, without a doubt. So the American Meteorological Society, our history goes back over 100 years. We have about 12,000 members. Most of them are in the U.S. We have some overseas. And I guess a quick detour, people think about weather. You think about that broadcast meteorologist on TV. But meteorology is private industry, it's government, it's academia. There is so much that happens in the weather world that most people really don't think about. But the American Meteorological Society does have training, we have education, and we have certification programs. And the next time you watch your favorite broadcaster on TV, see if they have a little gold seal next to their name. That would be a certification of a quality broadcast meteorologist.